In the early 2000s, I was surrounded by those who played on consoles such as the Xbox 360, the PlayStation 3, and the Wii. I didn't start out with console gaming. I received my very first computer, an HP Pavilion. It ran on Windows XP at the time, and I got to experience fooling around with Internet Explorer 8, Office 2003, and some of the games they came with, such as Spire Solitaire and Minesweeper. Around the time we were meeting new neighbors, and I came across a game they were playing. My dad decided to put the demo of that game on my computer, and from that point on, I received the full game on Christmas, and the game itself has been a game I would play throughout my entire life. of Empires is a historical real-time strategy game that takes place during the Stone Ages as you work up to the Iron Age. Originally, Age of Empires came out in 1997. It was developed by Ensemble Studios and was later published by Microsoft. Age of Empires would find itself among other popular real-time strategy games, such as Warcraft, StarCraft, Command & Conquer, and Total Annihilation. Age of Empires would become the best-selling RTS and would find itself in kids' cereal boxes in Australia. The game wouldn't have become an esport like other RTS games, as the developer's main goal for Age of Empires was to get anyone into the game, whether you are familiar with an RTS or not. While Age of Empires is a historical strategy game, the game wasn't marketed as an educational game. Bill Gates at the time thought it would be a great idea, but one of the designers, Bruce Shelley, previously worked with Sid Meier's in collaboration to design the Civilizations games. He said,
No, I don't think so. I mean, there's some education that might happen, but it's not going to happen until people are having fun. So we got to entertain them first, and if they learn something, then that's great.
When I first played Age of Empires, one of my first experiences I had were playing the single-player campaigns. There are other options in single-player, such as random map, deathmatch, and scenario. In most of the modes, you can play by yourself, test maps, or play them in multiplayer. The campaigns take place in historical time periods set between 8000 BC and 365 AD. Even if you don't know how to play Age of Empires, there is a tutorial that shows you how to play the game with its own campaign set in Egypt, allowing you to take control of Egypt and see how far you can go in the campaign. The majority of the campaigns are packed with goodies like a history tab to show you what part of history this campaign takes place in. Some of these campaigns will let you take part in the glory of Greece, the Babylonian Empire, and the Yamato Empire of the Rising Sun. These campaigns are very lengthy and well made, allowing you to not just take part in the historical setting, but also letting you take the time to build your own fortress design, gather resources for upgrades, and amass an army. You aren't told how to play the other campaigns. You can think of creative strategies to conquer your foes, no matter how long it takes. After a while of playing and finishing all the campaigns in Age of Empires, I decided to download the expansion pack called Rise of Rome. The Rise of Rome expansion contains campaigns and new civilizations to play. Some of these campaigns will let you take part in the beginning of Rome, helping Julius Caesar fight pirates, or play a campaign filled with a few different campaigns that let you play as the enemy civilizations of Rome. New game mechanics have been improved to speed up the pacing of the game, such as double-clicking on units to select certain types of units versus pressing the control key and manually selecting the same type of units. Production queues were added to speed up the pace of the game. Originally, the first game could only make one villager or soldier at a time. This allowed you to click the production of more units so they can start working or preparing for war. I fondly remember playing the Rise of Rome expansion. Some of the campaigns were fun, while the most replayed campaign I played is Caesar vs. Pirates. While I did finish that campaign, I would go back to it more by not following the main objectives and trying to see how far the wars would last until no one has any resources. In the years to come, I would mainly play on PC, and whenever I would either play on a computer with a CD drive or use my portable CD drive. The Age of Empires Collector's Edition would be my go-to games to play. During my high school years, I saw a trailer from Microsoft about a remastered version of Age of Empires. I ended up having to wait to try out the remaster due to not having a Windows 10 PC. When I did get a Windows 10 PC, the game also released on Steam. While I wasn't familiar with what a remaster was, Age of Empires Definitive Edition blew me away. From playing the original Age of Empires game for almost a decade, from graphics to sound, were insane. While I never really cared much about the fidelity and graphics, the graphical quality was up to 11 while remaining really faithful. Even more faithful to the point that the Definitive Edition uses the same Genie engine as the original 1997 game. Another thing they did was change the music files from MIDI format to using actual orchestral instruments. They even added a narrator, which wasn't even in the original game. You had to read what you saw on screen, but now you get to listen.
From the northern plains, your people came to the land of Hatti, where the sky gods of your ancestors are unknown, and the Hattians worship the Earth Mother who birthed the bull. These strange people do not live by the hoof, but by the black dirt of the earth. They do not live under the sky, but in caves they build with their hands out of hardened mud and wood. They do not honor their chiefs with great earthen mounds, but wrap their bodies in reeds and lay them beneath the hearth, removing the skulls to paint upon. The elders say that the sky gods desire the land of Hatti. Your people will be their instrument in this land.
There were other optional features that were added, such as blood, and I did try out that feature for like an hour, but I didn't really notice it, so I just turned it off. I never even had the experience of playing online multiplayer, and let alone around the time for multiplayer it was using MSN Gaming Zone. For the Definitive Edition, I noticed the game uses Xbox Live Service, but since I play on PC, I didn't have to pay for that service. When I entered a multiplayer duel for the first time, I decided to message the enemy player by saying I was new to RTS multiplayer. From years of experience playing by myself in the campaigns or random maps, I noticed the enemy player would use houses in place of walls for defense. He did end up building a wonder, but I went on the other side of the map to send an army of centurions to easily destroy the wonder. Only one was left remaining, and I took out the wonder before the other player could cry out for victory. I decided to defend myself. I walled myself in, but only left the other two sides open. Near the walls, I placed Babylonian towers and monks. While gaining more resources in the process, I was able to build a wonder, and I successfully defended myself from incoming attacks and turned enemy catapults into my own using monks. I angered the other player, and he sent out a message saying I lied and surrendered. I gained a victory, but it was a lucky one that lasted for 2 hours. I did end up replaying the campaigns I had finished all those years ago. Most of them were the same, but some of them did have different titles for the campaigns that weren't originally named in the original game. I did like how they added the Age of Empires demo campaign, which wasn't in the original release. While knowing everything and how to beat the game, I ended up having an achievement completion in under 4 months of playing the game. As someone who has been playing Age of Empires for pretty much the majority of my entire life, I do have great nostalgia for it. And the remaster contains a lot of things that I really enjoy, but there are some things that I did like, but I wish it could have been more worked on. The Age of Empires Definitive Edition for custom games does include a classic mode, and that classic mode allows you to play the game with the original graphics and music, but however, the one thing I did not like is that it uses the same HUD as the remaster versus the original HUD, and also the mouse icon. Age of Empires is one of the very first games I played on PC, and is still one of my favorite strategy game franchises of all time. I simply will never get bored of it, and I don't think you will either. If you really want to get into Age of Empires Definitive Edition goes on sale for as low as $5 on Steam. The game also contains all the campaigns, the scenario editor, and everything you'll expect like the original game. I think that is what is considered a good game, and I think it'll give you lots of playtime hours for your buck.